Good evening, students. Today we will start with angina. Last time we had seen different conditions, that is, uh, different conditions related to heart failure, heart attack, angina, infarction, and arrhythmia. So we know the difference between all these. Today, what we will see is angina. Uh, it is like symptom. So there will be three things related to this topic. First, infarction. Ischemia. That is deposition of depo- uh, deposition of lipids in the coronary artery. Okay, so that will lead to inadequate oxygen supply to the heart, and that is ischemia. After ischemia comes angina, which is a symptom of ischemia, you can say, where chest pain and discomfort is felt by the person. And if this is not treated on time, it will lead to heart failure, heart attack. So these are the three things which are correlated with each other. Now we will start with angina. So whatever treatment options we are looking at, angina, that is applicable to ischemia also. Yeah. So this is heart and coronary artery, the artery that you can see in the wall of the heart, that is supplying blood to the wall of the heart. This is just internal image of the heart. I'll directly move ahead to the pathophysiology of angina. Last time we had seen that heart also needs oxygen, right, to perform its function, the contraction and pumping blood to the body. For that function, it needs oxygen. So this oxygen demand of the heart should be, uh, fulfilled by the body, by the blood, and that blood is coming from coronary artery. So whatever amount of oxygen is required by heart wall, that much amount must be supplied by coronary artery. But if there is any problem in the coronary artery blockade, which generally we also call coronary artery disease, in that case enough oxygen supply won't be there to the heart wall. Coming to symptoms, due to inadequate oxygen supply, what will happen? There will be symptoms like fatigue. You can see in this image, chest pain or discomfort. Then, especially left side of the body, left jaw, left neck, or left shoulder. There, some pain might appear. Then nausea symptoms, sweating, these things might also appear. And sometimes in the lower region of the chest, there also some symptoms might appear, like burning sensation or feeling of fullness. This might not be, occasionally, this might be there throughout the time. But this chest pain, that will appear occasionally whenever the person is doing too much exercise and oxygen demand is increased. uh, this, if not treated on time, may lead to heart attack. So this is just again a representation of what is happening in the coronary artery and how this blockade is leading to the reduced blood flow. So this is coronary artery in which blood is flowing. So in the blood, definitely there are various things present: RBCs, platelets, cholesterol. So out of this, whenever there is some injury in the coronary artery wall, some minor injury, what will happen? Around that injury, these cholesterol molecules will start depositing. Now, after deposition of cholesterol molecule on the injury, around the injury in the coronary artery, RBCs and other platelet cells, they will also start accumulating. Okay, platelet cells will also start accumulating. Now this platelet and cholesterol deposition which is here around the injury, that is called plaque. We know that, right? And plaque is actually blocking the coronary artery, blood flow in the coronary artery. So now you can see how the RBCs are not able to go through the coronary artery and they are not able to reach to the heart wall. So what has happened in angina, the demand of oxygen relatively is increases compared to supply of oxygen. RBCs are not able to reach to the wall, so supply has been reduced and demand of oxygen is still there. So there is imbalance in oxygen demand and supply, which leads to angina. Now we will see various types of angina. I hope you don't have any queries in pathophysiology of angina, because last time also we discussed. Today I showed exactly how that coronary artery is blocked, causing ischemia, and that is causing actually symptom of chest pain, which is called angina. Now we'll see types of angina. So in types, there are 4 types. First is stable angina. What we mean by stable angina, the person is uh, sleeping or resting, not doing any activity. Okay, that time also, that time the balance of oxygen demand and supply is equal. Okay, whatever amount of um, oxygen is demanded by the body, that is supply, right? Now whenever there is the person is doing activity or exercise, the body is asking for more blood supply, and that's why heart has to function more. So oxygen demand by the heart increases. Heart has to work hard, so more oxygen is required by the heart, but the supply is still less, right? Supply is still less. So that's why there is imbalance in this condition whenever the person is doing activity. So this is in such condition, now pain will angina attack will be there, and this is called stable angina. Why this is called stable angina? Because it follows a pattern, and the plaque which is formed in the coronary artery, that is stable, that is not moving anywhere. I had shown you the plaque in the coronary artery, right? That is stable in the coronary artery. It's not moving anywhere. And whenever there is, the attack is following a pattern. Whenever a person is doing any exercise, at that time, uh, attack may occur. And after that attack, if patient is taking rest for some time and taking medicines, that pain will go. This may not lead to heart attack. Why? Because it's like a signal. The person knows that if I'm doing this much activity, I may get angina attack pain, and that's why he will be mentally prepared and prepared with the medicine. So there will be very less chance of heart attack. And since there is some radius or opening is still there in the coronary artery allowing blood flow, there is less chance of heart attack in stable angina. Now coming to unstable angina, the second type of angina. So in this, what is happening, you can see this plaque. Now here the plaque is actually broken and it moves like a flap. Okay, it moves like a flap. So this will act as a flap whose one end is joined to the wall of this coronary artery and second end is free. So it's like it will close this opening also. It will block the whole coronary artery. Now this won't block all the time. This will be like this only most of the time. Sometimes randomly this will move that side and block the whole coronary artery uh, at a time. Okay, and this will be random, not based on the activity. it can happen when the person is sleeping at that moment also. It's not following any pattern. So it does not follow a pattern. This attack may come at any time, and heart attack may occur because this moving plaque is blocking the whole diameter of the coronary artery. So heart is not getting oxygen at all at that moment. So there will be heart attack. This was second type. Now coming to third type, third and fourth are less common, but they are there. So variant angina, which is rare, it occurs due to vascular spasm. So if there is spasm in the coronary artery, what will happen? The diameter will be less and blood flow will be less to the heart. And fourth is microvascular angina. So in microvascular angina, generally small diameter arteries are blocked, not the large diameter coronary artery. So these were the four types of angina: stable, unstable, stable because the plaque is stable, which is following a pattern. Unstable, plaque is not stable, it's not following any pattern. Anytime this attack may come. Variant angina because of vascular spasm. Microvascular angina in the block in the small diameter arteries. So before going to ahead to the angina management, I'll just ask, is there any queries in pathophysiology of angina or types of angina?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. So going ahead to management, first of all, let's see the goals. What we have to do. Okay. In typical angina, that is generally stable angina, reducing myocardial oxygen demand is our goal. Okay. And this how this myocardial oxygen demand can be reduced. The demand by the heart can be reduced by decreasing heart rate, by decreasing heart contractility, and by decreasing ventricular wall stress. So these are three mechanisms by which we can reduce oxygen demand by the heart. Okay. Second thing is unstable angina. So in case of unstable angina, you remember that plaque was moving. That is one headache in that, right? Compared to oxygen demand, that plaque is more important in unstable. So here, what we need to do, we need to increase myocardial blood flow by somehow repairing that plaque. So how we will repair that plaque? By use of antiplatelet drugs, so that it removes the platelets that are deposited in that plaque. Heparin as antithrombotic drug, so that thrombus which is formed in the plaque, that is dissolved. And if these are not working, the plaque is big, then definitely coronary stents or bypass surgery has to be done to remove that plaque and allow the blood flow to the heart. In variant angina, the coronary vasospasm must be prevented. So these are the goals in different types of angina that we need to achieve. Majorly now we will focus on oxygen demand and oxygen supply. Okay, this is very important. So you can see oxygen demand and supply is equal at that time, balanced, then it is fine. If demand is more compared to supply, or I'm saying supply is less compared to demand, then there will be ischemia, whose symptom will be angina. So how oxygen demand can be reduced? We need to reduce oxygen demand, right? So that this will be balanced. So how it can be reduced? Either by reducing heart rate or heart contractility. So for reducing heart rate or heart contractility, what can be given? Adrenergic beta blockers or calcium channel blockers. They can reduce heart rate or contractility. Second thing, what we can do, we can reduce preload or afterload. So for this, organic nitrates or calcium channel blocker will again help. So these are the three classes of drugs used to reduce oxygen demand by heart, by myocardial cells. Okay. Moving ahead, second part, that is increasing oxygen supply. How this will be increased? By increasing coronary blood flow or by increasing regional myocardial blood flow. So for this, what basically we will give vasodilators, especially calcium channel blocker. And second thing, these are given as adjuvants actually, statins and antithrombotic drugs. So they help in dissolving that plaque which is present in the coronary artery, and that's how the regional blood flow in that coronary artery is increased. So you can see how important calcium channel blockers are here. They are showing multiple mechanism of action. They are reducing heart rate contractility, also reducing preload and afterload. That's how they will reduce oxygen demand. And they are also increasing coronary blood flow by causing vasodilation. That's how they will increase oxygen supply to the heart. So this is all about management options for angina or ischemia. Okay. Now going ahead to first management option, that is organic nitrates, which is very important in case of angina. So in angina, two things are important: organic nitrates and calcium channel blockers. Apart from this, beta blockers, then statins and antiplatelet drugs, these are also given, but that we will not see much in detail. More, we will focus on nitrates and calcium channel blockers. So we'll see first mechanism of action of organic nitrates. So organic nitrates, all organic nitrates are prodrugs. Okay, please remember this. All organic nitrates are prodrugs. So when these nitrates are taken, the drug is administered in the body. They are metabolized by aldehyde dehydrogenase enzyme. From where does this enzyme come? It comes from the mitochondria of cells, any cell. Okay, mitochondria of any cell, that is releasing aldehyde dehydrogenase enzyme, which is metabolizing all these organic nitrates and releasing nitric oxide. Can anyone tell me nitric oxide, what's the role of nitric oxide?
Vasodilation.
Vasodilation, perfect. Do we know
Ma'am, it is endothelium derived relaxing factor.
endothelium derived relaxing factor, right? So see, nitric oxide is released in the body even when organic nitrates are not taken. There is endogenous NO release also. Okay, nitric oxide synthase enzymes are there in the blood vessel wall, which releases nitric oxide from amino acids, arginine. Okay, those enzymes, they metabolize L-arginine and release nitric oxide. This is happening naturally in the body whenever there is vasodilation is required naturally in the body. But here externally we are giving the drug to cause vasodilation. So the mechanism will be same. It's just that nitric oxide is released from drug. Okay. Now we will see what is the mechanism of nitric oxide on the blood vessel wall, how it actually acts. So aldehyde dehydrogenase has released nitric oxide from the drug, which helps in vasodilation, as you all mentioned. Now we'll see the process, how it helps in vasodilation. So nitric oxide enters inside the cell, crossing the cell membrane. There it activates guanylyl cyclase enzyme, and this guanylyl cyclase enzyme is converting GTP into CGMP. So basically nitric oxide is causing vasodilation through CGMP pathway. This is one important thing, because whatever we had studied in CHF, those drugs, beta agonist and all, they were acting on heart wall through CAMP, and for vasodilation also, whatever drugs we had studied, they were acting through CAMP mechanism. This is the only one which is acting, organic nitrate is the only one which is acting through CGMP pathway for vasodilation. So CGMP will activate enzyme protein kinase G. And this protein kinase G enzyme will activate myosin light chain phosphatase. Now tell me, what will be the role of myosin light chain phosphatase as name is suggesting? Can you tell me?
Ma'am, like myosin is involved in contraction, like myosin, actin myosin. It is
Right.
so this is an enzyme, na phosphatase. So it will break down that myosin like kinase chain, and then thus it will prevent the contractions.
Perfect. So just you forgot, it will break down not the chain, but it will break down the phosphorylated group of the myosin light chain, right? So here you can see myosin when it is phosphorylated, it causes contraction by interacting with actin. Okay, but this phosphate group is broken down by this myosin light chain phosphatase enzyme, and that's why now without any phosphatase there cannot be phosphate group, there cannot be any contraction, so it is causing vasodilation. Okay, so this is the mechanism how organic nitrates are causing vasodilation. Drug administered, it will be metabolized into nitric oxide. They all are prodrugs by enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase. Once NO is released, it will enter in the cell and activate guanylyl cyclase enzyme. This will activate, convert GTP into CGMP. CGMP will activate protein kinase G enzyme, which will activate myosin light chain phosphatase enzyme. It will break down or dephosphorylate the myosin light chain, and then this dephosphorylation causes vasodilation. Now, this whole process is giving some pharmacological effects, like it decreases preload, it decreases afterload, it increases blood flow in coronary artery because of vasodilation of the coronary artery. So these are some important effects which are required in ischemia or angina, because you remember heart is not getting enough oxygen, so it is not able to do too much work. Okay, and in that case we need to give some rest to the heart. How we can give rest to the heart? By decreasing preload and afterload. This is one thing. And we can increase oxygen supply to the heart so that it can function properly. How we can increase oxygen supply? By increasing blood flow through coronary artery. So this is the mechanism of action of organic nitrates. There are
Hello,
huh?
ma'am. I have a doubt regarding the mechanism. Ma'am, in Tripathi, it is given opposite. It is given that it inactivates that PKG inactivates myosin light chain kinase. Means it prevents phosphorylation of MLCK to MLCK phosphate.
Is it written? It is prevent inactivating.
Prevent yes, prevent
phosphate?
means that minus sign is given, which indicates the inhibition.
Minus sign is on phosphatase or phosphorylation.
On phosphorylation means MLCK is converted into MLCK phosphate, so that process is inhibited.
Right, same thing is shown here, right? This phosphatase is doing what? It is breaking down this phosphate group from myosin group, myosin chain, okay? Which is like minus sign. It is breaking down this phosphorylation, not allowing phosphorylation, and that's why contraction will not happen. What it is doing? Because of this breaking down, vasodilation will happen. So basically, if I will put this arrow from here to here, if I will put this arrow from here to here, So it will be like negative. It's not allowing this contraction, right? Through phosphorylation. Is it
Ma'am,
clear?
I am talking about the enzyme myosin light chain kinase. That PKG inhibits the phosphorylation of the enzyme. It is given in that book.
Phosphorylation of which enzyme?
MLCK, myosin light chain
Okay.
kinase.
No. See, there might be few here and there in the words, but you only imagine myosin light chain kinase. It is itself enzyme, right? It is actually causing phosphorylation of myosin phosphate. Myosin light chain. So MLCK causes phosphorylation, and for MLCP.
Ma'am,
Huh? Hello.
ma'am, there it is shown like the MLCK is phosphorylated to MLCK phosphatase. That particular step is inhibited by PKG.
Okay, I will check that image since you all are explaining me and I'm not able to see the image. It's not possible to understand that, but this is something, a proper mechanism where phosphatase enzyme is activated, which is inhibiting basically phosphorylation of myosin. And this inhibition of phosphorylation is causing vasodilation.
Ma'am, rest all are same, only that enzyme step.
Enzyme name is different, right? What
Yes.
you have.
Step is
But
different.
kinase is the one which phosphorylates, right? So kinase is inhibited, but if it's phosphatase, it's activated because phosphatase needs to
That
get
might happen. So there can be two ways. Okay, one I have
Yes,
shown
ma'am,
is
it is inhibiting the phosphorylation.
sorry, your voice have gone. So it might have happen that here is MLCK, which is actually causing this phosphorylation and contraction. So this is inhibited by PKG, and MLCP is activated. Okay, what does this mean now? Please mute your mic after asking the quick question. So now what does this mean? PKG has inhibited MLCK. That means it has inhibited contraction. And it has activated phosphatase. That means it is causing vasodilation. Is this clear now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, yeah. So basically, I had not included MLCK here. So I will just check if it is blocking MLCK also, or it is just activating phosphatase enzyme. But basically, it is causing vasodilation. Going ahead to the drugs, now organic nitrates. These are the only drugs which are used for prevention of anginal attack. Okay. Treatment of anginal attack. So you can imagine if a person is doing exercise,
Ma'am,
he or
hello. Ma'am, basically in that book it is given that this activated MLCK, that is phosphorylated MLCK is responsible for contraction. But the
Okay.
as we say, but
Yeah, I
yes,
understood. See, what that book must be doing, it must be just explaining how this contraction and relaxation is happening. But in mechanism of nitrates, nitrate is activating phosphatase enzyme. Nitrate is not doing anything to MLCK. They
means
must be just
here, ma'am, here we say that this myosin light chain phosphatase is responsible for vasodilation. But
yes,
according to
by
them,
breakdown of this.
according to them, it is responsible for the contraction.
Myosin
According
light
to
chain phosphatase.
yes,
No, that's not possible. I'll check the Tripathi image and explanation
ma'am,
what they have taken.
myosin light chain phosphatase is myosin light chain kinase phosphatase, right?
No, they both are different. That's what I'm saying. Light chain kinase is something which will do phosphorylation of myosin and which will cause
Ma'am,
contraction. And myosin light chain phosphatase is something which will break down
ma'am,
the phosphorylate. Huh? Yes.
ma'am, I understood something. If I can explain, in the book, it is showing like the PKG is responsible for the inhibition of the process where myosin light chain kinase is converted to phosphorylated myosin light chain kinase phosphorylated part. So that enzyme, particular enzyme, is responsible for the conversion of myosin light chain to myosin light chain phosphorylated and actin, which is
Yeah.
responsible for contraction. So if that process is inhibited, the contraction will be inhibited and vasodilation will occur.
Right. So that's what I
Am I
was
right?
saying, that yes, that's proper. So this whole thing, contraction part, is blocked by PKG by activating this phosphatase enzyme. Okay. This is what is written in that book also. It's just that you will have to understand difference between MLCK and difference between phosphatase. MLC kinase is causing contraction and phosphatase is causing vasodilation. So when phosphatase is activated, contraction is inhibited. Contraction is inhibited means what? Vasodilation हो रहा है. Or forget about MLCK here in case of PKG. Just remember phosphatase. Phosphatase को activate किया, इसके लिए ये contraction पूरा inhibit हो गया, vasodilation हुआ.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, but since phosphatase is getting activated, it will not allow the kinase to bind to myosin and phosphorylate it. So
Right.
ultimately, MLCK is inhibited only, right? Whether we write it phosphatase activation or
Yes, yes,
kinase.
it will inhibit, and that's why but we are not just going into very depth. I have just given one schematic representation how PKG is causing vasodilation by activating myosin light chain phosphatase enzyme. So definitely whatever you have said right now, that phosphatase will inhibit binding of MLCK to myosin, and that's why this phosphorylation will be blocked and contraction will be blocked. All those steps will take place. But this is just representation, schematic representation, that PKG has activated phosphatase and caused vasodilation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay.
Everyone, your queries are resolved about this mechanism? Or anyone still have any
Yes,
query?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This MLCK and phosphatase, please read this properly again. Just remember, MLCK is causing contraction, phosphatase is causing vasodilation. If you are confusing between these two, then you will mess up the whole mechanism. Okay, going ahead to treatment. Now, this organic nitrate, yeah, I was saying this is the only drug which is given for treatment. You can imagine a person who is doing too much of activity or exercise, at that moment that person have got anginal attack. Okay, what will be the choice of drug? Organic nitrate. No other drug at that time. It will be only organic nitrate. Why? Because of the rapid onset of action, because it is available in the sublingual form. So because of these two important characteristics, this is the choice of drug for treatment of acute attack of angina. So for treatment, there are two drugs, two organic nitrates, glyceryl trinitrate, which is also known as nitroglycerin, and isosorbate dinitrate. Okay, the glyceryl trinitrate is available in sublingual, transdermal, IV form also. Maybe the person is unconscious, then any dosage form can be given. So that's why again this is preferred choice. You can see onset of action is so quick, just 4 minutes or 6 minutes. And the problem is half-life is very short, 1 to 3 minutes or 45 minutes. But that's fine. For treatment, we need short duration of action will also be fine. We need, importantly, fast onset of action, which is there with these two drugs. They have also active metabolites, dinitrate metabolite and isosorbate 2 mononitrate. So this one, isosorbate 2 mononitrate, which is active metabolite of isosorbate dinitrate, it is separately also given as a drug for prevention of this anginal attack. Okay, so you can see these are some drugs which are used for prevention of anginal attack. Erythritol tetranitrate, penta erythritol tetranitrate, isosorbate mononitrate, and molzigdomide. So what we saw, inorganic nitrates, mechanism of action. Then we saw organic nitrates used to treat acute attack, and then organic nitrates used to prevent acute attack. So these were the organic nitrates. What are the adverse effects? Headache, postural hypotension. These two are very important adverse effects. That's why I have mentioned. So in fact, the discovery of organic nitrate happened with this headache. The first time the scientist who was working on organic nitrate, he kept after keeping this drug organic nitrate in the sublingual region, there was severe headache in that person, and that's how he came across that this nitrate can be absorbed through sublingual route and it is causing some pharmacological effect. So headache is one important adverse effect, and postural hypotension. So you know that it is causing vasodilation. All vasodilators, they have side effect of hypotension. Another important thing, all these organic nitrates, they are inactivated by first pass metabolism in the liver, and that's why mostly sublingual drugs are preferred, or IV or transdermal nitrates are preferred. Out of all these, only this isosorbate mononitrate is exception, which is not metabolized much significantly through first pass metabolism. So this can be asked in MCQ. Which of the following is not metabolized? Organic nitrate is not metabolized through first pass metabolism. That is isosorbate mononitrate. Going ahead to pharmacological effects of organic nitrate, this we have already discussed. Hemodynamic effect, that is, it promotes vascular smooth muscle relaxation, that is vasodilation. It improves coronary blood flow, so more oxygen, more blood will be supplied to the heart through coronary artery. It has impact on myocardial oxygen requirement by decreasing preload and afterload. So these three important mechanisms, that it is decreasing preload, it is increasing afterload, and it is causing improving coronary blood flow. So oxygen supply is increased. These three are important. This you can remember, this one other effect, that it is also relaxing smooth muscles of bronchi, biliary duct or gastrointestinal tract. So maybe if someone is having severe asthma, the question may be framed like this: a person is having severe asthma and at increased risk of this angina, which can organic nitrate be given in that condition, or some options might be given. So in that case, definitely organic nitrate cannot be given, right? Because it is causing relaxation of all the smooth muscles, including bronchi. Tolerance is developed by organic nitrate, so that's why it has to be given very cautiously. There is something called true vascular tolerance and pseudo tolerance. So true vascular tolerance में क्या होता है? You remember the enzyme which was converting drug organic nitrate into nitric oxide? Nitric oxide. Which was the drug?
Aldehyde dehydrogenase.
Aldehyde dehydrogenase. So that is one mechanism, modification or in the aldehyde dehydrogenase enzyme, that is one mechanism of tolerance development. which is part of true vascular tolerance. There are some mechanisms which are not at all related to blood vessel wall. Okay, some external mechanisms which is not mentioned in the books, but those mechanisms are called pseudo tolerance. In the through that mechanism also tolerance can develop. So this drug is basically highly susceptible for drug tolerance, and that's why it should be taken cautiously at the time of anginal attack or in anticipation of exercise or stress only. ऐसे नहीं कि कभी भी randomly daily dose जैसे ले लिया. No, when the person is feeling कि नहीं अभी मुझे attack आ सकता है, I have stress or I might be doing this strenuous activity, so I might get attack. At that time only this drug should be taken, or else definitely जब attack आ रहा है तभी. Otherwise this should be avoided. So this completed organic nitrates. Any doubt in the organic nitrates mechanism, drugs, its onset of action and preference in angina management?
Ma'am, in ADR, the major ADR can be flushing from the reflex tachycardia also, na?
Yes, so flushing bhi kaise hoga? See, whenever you are, I always tell you all, whenever you study the side effects, always correlate it with its mechanism. What is it doing? Vasodilation, right? Uski wajah se, that vasodilation ki wajah se there will be flushing because of too much, blood supply in the facial blood vessels. So flushing will be there. And what else you mentioned? Tachycardia, right?
Yes, ma'am. Reflex tachycardia. And ma'am, how withdrawal syndrome, how the patient will suffer withdrawal symptoms after taking nitrates?
What we mean by withdrawal symptoms, withdrawal means when the drug has been stopped, opposite effects start occurring. There will be, the angina attack will start coming again. That is called withdrawal effect. So this is not, there is no mechanism for withdrawal effect. It may happen, it is associated with molecules. It may happen with few of the molecules. So सारे ड्रग्स में ऐसा नहीं होता है कि बंद कर दिया तो इफेक्ट वापस आ जाएगा. I mean कंडीशन डिजीज वापस आ जाएगा. सब ड्रग में नहीं होता है, बट देयर आर सम ड्रग्स जिसको स्टॉप करने के बाद वो इफेक्ट वापस, कंडीशन वापस रिकर होता है. Any other doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then moving ahead to next class, that is calcium channel blockers. So yeah, calcium channel blockers may, this is very, actually medicinal chemistry part is very important. There are different classes and how they are metabolized and all. But in pharmacology, few things which are important I will explain you, that is its mechanism and where it should not be used or it should be used. Okay, indication and contraindication. So this calcium channels, they are present in smooth muscles of cardiac myocytes as well as blood vessel smooth muscles, right? So the only thing is mechanism is different. Calcium channel blocker, it will block calcium channel of myocyte as well as smooth muscle cells of blood vessel also, and it will cause some pharmacological effect, but the mechanism will be different. So calcium channel antagonists inhibit calcium channel function by binding to the alpha-1 subunit, which is the main pore forming unit of L-type calcium channel. I hope you remember in the myocytes, which type of calcium channel is present? L-type, right? So this L-type calcium channel is, in its structure, there is one subpart called alpha-1 subunit, which is main part of the pore forming unit. So this helps in forming a pore opening in the channel so that calcium can enter in the myocyte. Now this alpha 1 is only blocked by calcium channel blockers, and that's why the channel cannot open. So that's how it blocks, it is called calcium channel blockers. In vascular smooth muscle, this leads to relaxation. So its effect is more towards arterial blood vessels compared to veins. And these drugs also may produce negative inotropic effects by this blocking L-type calcium channel. So these are some mechanisms of calcium channel blocker. It is blocking alpha 1 subunit of channel. It is blocking calcium channel in heart also. That's how it will cause negative inotropic effect. And it is blocking calcium channel in blood vessels also. That's how it will cause vasodilation. So both ways it is acting. These are the drugs: verapamil, diltiazem, and dihydropyridines. So there are many dihydropyridines, many drugs, mostly nifedipine, amlodipine, nicardipine. These are the preferred ones. Verapamil and diltiazem, their duration of action is a bit longer. Why? Because they are having active metabolites.
लागेल ते झोपताना कानाला आणि घुसेल आतमध्ये. बसतंय काय?
Mute your mic.
आतमध्ये. असं झालेलं विपिनाच्या बहिणीचं.
Who is that? Please mute your mic. Yeah. So verapamil and diltiazem, they are the preferred choice of calcium channel blockers, and they have long duration of action. Why? Because they have active metabolite. Can someone tell me what is the active metabolite of verapamil? Have you heard? Have you come across this ever? Anyone?
Is it dismethyl verapamil?
Yes, verapamil. And that is actually diltiazem. This acetyl diltiazem. And verapamil is, I guess, yeah, norverapamil. Okay, so norverapamil and desacetyl diltiazem, these are the metabolites of these two drugs, active metabolites, I will say, and that's why they have longer duration of action. Dihydropyridines. So in detail, you can see in Medchem also. One important thing here we will see is adverse effects, again headache, hypotension, and this peripheral and pulmonary congestion, because they are causing vasodilation, significant vasodilation. They may cause congestion in the peripheral tissue or pulmonary area, and that's why this drug, I hope you remember I had said in CHF management, all the vasodilators are preferred or can be given except calcium channel blockers, because they are causing peripheral and pulmonary congestion, and this is already a complication of CHF. So we should ignore this class of drug for CHF management. Any doubt in calcium channel blocker? We have done organic nitrates, we have done calcium channel blockers, which were the major part of the angina management. Any doubt?
Ma'am, this verapamil and diltiazem is less potent than dihydropyridine.
No, they are more potent in fact.
Okay.
So I don't know if you are comfortable to read Goodman or Gilman, but there is one table given. I would just suggest to see that table in which they have written all the calcium channel blockers and their effect on, inotropic effect, chronotropic effect, or vasodilation, that. So you will see the significant difference in the number, how the effect is more in verapamil, actually maximum in verapamil, then in diltiazem, and then other calcium channel blockers.
Ma'am?
How?
Ma'am, these organic nitrates, they are responsible for only dilating the blood vessels, right?
Yes,
Nothing.
blood vessels.
Okay, and the calcium channel blockers, they dilate the blood vessels as well as the myocyte.
They don't dilate myocyte, but
Yeah,
they
relax them.
they cause relaxation so that heart doesn't have to work too much.
Ma'am, they basically reduce the heart rate, na?
Heart rate,
And they increase the refractory period
contractility of the heart.
in myocytes.
Right. So for if force of contraction is reduced, तो उसको कम heart को कम force लगाना पड़ रहा है, तो कम energy require होगा by heart. So that's why less oxygen supply is also fine with the heart. Okay, going ahead to third class. Now few small classes are there which can be used as combination for angina management. So beta blockers. What do you think? Which beta blocker should be given in angina management? Beta 1, beta 2, or non-selective?
Beta 1 blocker.
Okay,
Beta 1.
if
Selective.
okay, you all are saying selective, but no, here non-selective is given because first of all, see here mechanism. When non-selective is given, they will act on heart beta 1 receptor, as well as they will act on blood vessels to cause vasodilation. Okay, so both ways they will benefit. Beta 1, you are saying so that I mean heart contractility force will be reduced, so oxygen consumption will be reduced by the heart. That is correct logic, and which is applicable to non-selective beta blockers also. This mechanism we have already done in CHF management. I hope you remember how beta receptor was causing formation of CAMP, which was activating protein kinase enzyme, which was releasing intracellular calcium, and intracellular calcium was causing contraction through contractile protein called troponin in the myocyte. So this beta receptor is causing contraction in the myocyte, and that's why we want to block this receptor, which is done by beta blockers. So negative chronotropic effects, negative inotropic effects, reduction in arterial blood pressure. This will be done by, this will not happen if we give beta 1 selective blocker. So that's why non-selective is given, so that arterial blood pressure is also reduced. All these effects, negative chronotropic, negative inotropic, negative reduction in blood pressure, is not required by all the patients. Okay, and that's why doctor will measure first कि किस patient को ये सब कुछ चाहिए, then only he will prescribe beta blocker. But this is one of the preferred choice of drug for angina management. Timolol, metoprolol, atenolol, and propranolol are preferred beta blockers for angina management. Okay, one thing, beta blockers will be given in treatment of angina or prevention of angina. Beta blocker will given in treatment of angina or prevention of angina. Anyone? At least you can guess. It's fine if you are wrong.
Ma'am, it
Someone
will be
said
given in
treatment.
because if you give it in prevention, the first only the heart rate will be reduced by the normal, so that will lead to another effect, another side effect. So that will be bad for the body, heart. So we have to do the treatment.
Okay, I agree that there might be some side effects. Someone mentioned prevention and prophylaxis both. In both the condition, this will be preferred. But I mentioned this clearly in the first slide of management only, that for treatment only organic nitrate is given. Otherwise, all these drugs are given as prophylaxis. Okay, heart ka count, heart ka force, heart ka count, heart rate, all these are reduced so that it does not undergo that pressure. और ऑक्सीजन चाहिए और ऑक्सीजन. That is actually prophylaxis. We are not treating anything. Organic nitrate is in one thing which will use as angina treatment. मतलब जब patient को literally ऐसा attack आया है, there is chest pain, that time organic nitrate is taken. No other drug, beta blocker, calcium channel blocker, nothing. It's just organic nitrate. So for
Ma'am,
treatment,
so after the first attack, like if there is an acute attack, so after that detection of the first attack, after that you started preventive
right,
drugs, na?
right. So after the attack, एक बार वो पेन सबसाइड हो गया, फिर बीटा ब्लॉकर स्टार्ट करेंगे एज अ प्रोफाइलैक्सिस फॉर सेकेंड अटैक, राइट,
Okay,
और प्रोफाइलैक्सिस ऑफ इश्केमिया, एनीथिंग. So this is like all these are prophylaxis. Only organic nitrate is given as treatment. Now going ahead to these two are also important, antiplatelet agents and antithrombotic agents. Any antiplatelet, most common antiplatelet agent you know?
Aspirin.
aspirin,
Aspirin.
dipyridamole,
Perfect. Yes. So
dipyridamole.
okay, dipyridamole is, yes, along with this mechanism, dipyridamole also shows another mechanism, PDE3 inhibitor, and that's why that I have mentioned somewhere else in other class. So that also we will discuss here. Aspirin, which is anti-platelet drug. Sorry. Other antiplatelet drugs are clopidogrel, intravenous, apixaban, tirofiban, and eptifibatide. So these are some intravenous anti-integrin drugs actually. Basically all these. So there is the whole chapter on blood hematinics. Okay, antiplatelet, thrombotic, all these drugs are explained there, mechanism. So in detail we will see it there, but most commonly here antiplatelet drug used is aspirin, which is available orally and very economic. That's why this is the preferred. Apart from this, whatever these other drugs I have mentioned, they can also be given. Matlab clinical trials mein they have also shown its effect. So if in MCQ they ask that with they give you option antiplatelet, anti-integrin, or antithrombotic, which of these is showing effect. So all of them in angina management. Okay.
Ma'am, warfarin.
Warfarin is heparin, na? Antithrombotic class of
Yes,
drug.
yes.
So that is also given. But heparin and warfarin are given only when, in case of unstable angina. They are preferred in unstable angina because वहाँ पे कैसा plaque जो है तुम्हारा coronary artery को block कर रहा होता है. And there is high chance of heart attack in that case. So in that case, वो plaque को dissolve करना is very much important, and that's why heparin or warfarin will be preferred. In fact, all these antiplatelets and antithrombotic, they will be preferred in unstable angina management more compared to stable angina.
Ma'am, in antiplatelet, the aspirin is only widely used, or that oral clopidogrel is also used? Because
Aspirin.
oral clopidogrel is also marketed product. Like,
It is there, but first choice is aspirin, and it is very cheap. So,
okay.
and many studies are available on aspirin. So that is the first choice in antiplatelet for angina. Okay. Next is potassium channel blocker. Now, this potassium channel blocker is not widely used, but since it was mentioned somewhere in your book, so I thought to discuss this as well. Nicorandil is one which is hybrid of organic nitrate and potassium channel opener. Okay. Sorry, I guess I mentioned potassium channel blocker. It is potassium channel opener. So it is a hybrid of organic nitrate and potassium channel opener. If you see, there is nitrate structure in the molecule. So after entering in the body, it releases this nitrate molecule and acts as a nitric oxide donor. that NO will show vasodilation, plus ये जो nicorandil है, that will act as potassium channel opener. It will open potassium dependent ATP channel. It will increase potassium efflux, causing hyperpolarization. What happens in case of hyperpolarization? क्या होता है hyperpolarization की वजह से?
Relax.
Yeah, you can say relaxation period refractory period is increased, right? So the next action potential will be generated very slowly, and the heart is relaxed in that refractory period. So basically the function is reduced. It is slowed down of the heart by causing hyperpolarization. So this was one thing that I wanted to show you. After this, miscellaneous, so this is one dipyritamole. Someone had already mentioned this molecule. It also inhibits phosphodiesterase 3 enzyme in the blood vessel smooth muscle. You remember what is the mechanism of, what is the role of PDE3 enzyme? Anyone? It breaks CAMP. Yes, correct. So PDE3 is breaking down CAMP, the cyclic structure of CAMP, and converting it into AMP. उससे क्या होगा? If it, अच्छा, now tell me.
Ma'am, it converts CGMP to 5GMP, na? That is why the dipyridamole is the phosphodiesterase inhibitor.
Dipyridamole is phosphodiesterase 3 inhibitor, and phosphodiesterase 3 enzyme, it is breaking down the cyclic structure of CAMP and CGMP both.
Okay.
Okay, and do we need CGMP or CAMP? Do we need CGMP or CAMP here in angina? Yeah, actually both, right? In organic nitrates also you saw CGMP was causing vasodilation by activating myosin light chain phosphatase enzyme, right? So CGMP and CAMP both in blood vessel, they cause vasodilation, right? So they both are important for vasodilation. I'm not talking about myocyte, okay? In myocyte, CAMP will be having different mechanism. So here now we need CAMP or CGMP, but PDE3 enzyme is breaking down that in CAMP or CGMP, and that's why we need to block PDE3. So we are giving dipyridamole. At the end, it is causing vasodilation. This we had discussed last time also, the mechanism. Ranolazine, this is one miscellaneous drug. Mechanism is not very clear, but I'll just show you what is
Ma'am, can you please once show the previous slide?
Yes. There is something wrong in this image. I would suggest the PPT shared of CHF, refer that image for PDE3 mechanism. Do you want the image or this text is fine? Hello? Hello? Any query here? So what is wrong here is this. CAMP in smooth muscle causes
Yes, ma'am, I'm done.
relaxation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So CAMP in smooth muscle causes relaxation, but this is broken down by PDE3 enzyme, and that's why we need to block PDE3 enzyme. Okay, going ahead, the last miscellaneous drug that we were discussing, ranolazine. So ranolazine, the mechanism is not very clear, but one important thing about this you can remember is it shifts metabolism in the myocytes. How? So you can see here, myocardial energy, the myocytes, they need energy to perform function, right? Energy means basically oxygen and ATP. Oxygen is coming from ATP. So they need oxygen, and oxygen can come from definitely blood, which is coming from coronary artery. And second thing, it can come from metabolism. So when fatty acids are metabolized, less oxygen is generated because less ATP is generated. When glucose is metabolized, more ATP is generated, and that's why more oxygen is generated. So in case of angina or ischemia, where already the heart is tired, it needs more oxygen. What do you think? Which pathway will be better for oxygen generation? Fatty acid metabolism or glucose metabolism?
Ma'am, can you explain that again?
Okay, see, heart needs oxygen, right, to perform function. Oxygen can come from two resources. One, from blood. The RBC is carrying oxygen from blood and giving it to the myocyte for functioning. But there is blocking in the coronary artery, so blood is already supplying less oxygen. Now remains second option. What is the second option? By metabolizing these substrates in the myocyte, ATP will be generated, and ATP will generate oxygen, right? So this metabolism pathway is also helping to some extent for generation of oxygen and supplying oxygen to the myocyte. Now there are two metabolism pathway: fatty acid metabolism, glucose metabolism. When fatty acid is metabolized, less ATP is generated, less oxygen is generated. When glucose is metabolized, more number of ATP is generated, more oxygen is generated. So in angina or ischemia, which metabolism pathway will be preferred? Fatty acid or glucose?
Glucose.
Glucose.
All agree to this? I'm so sorry today. I don't know what is happening. My chat box is not opening many times. So if you have to say something, you can just unmute and say. So yeah, as you all said, glucose metabolism is the preferred one. That's why to generate more oxygen. So yes, and that's why what this ranolazine drug is doing, it is shifting the metabolism pathway from fatty acid to glucose, so that more glucose is metabolized compared to fatty acid and more oxygen is generated. This is the concept of shifting metabolism by ranolazine. You have any query?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, in that image,
Which image are you talking?
that CAMP image.
PDE3?
Yes, this one.
Huh?
Ma'am, but in the CAMP pathway, the GS will stimulate the CAMP and therefore we'll get a contraction only, right? Because it will increase the pumping of the calcium into the cell.
Do you remember in the smooth muscle? So that is what you are saying, that is happening in myocytes. Okay, but in smooth muscles it is opposite. Increase in CAMP inhibits myosin light chain kinase enzyme, and myosin light chain kinase enzyme is I will just show you that image that I had shown last time, I guess. Okay, let me just complete this topic so that others also don't get distracted, and at the end I will show you the image, last time's image, where I had explained how in blood vessels CAMP is causing relaxation. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
just remind me if in case I forget at the end. I'll show you that.
Yes, ma'am.
So ranolazine is shifting the metabolism, and this is the last slide. I just wanted to show you how in the management, the different class of drugs are preferred. So you can see here, drugs to reduce events, statins are given, or ACE inhibitors are given or antiplatelets are given. So ACE inhibitors, they are again vasodilators. So these are preferred one in reducing the events, angina events. Second class, drugs to reduce angina pain or, okay. So here organic nitrates, don't go on the title. Yeah, don't go on the title. Just consider this. Nitrate plus heart rate is when heart rate is too much, more than 70, beta blockers or calcium channel blockers can be given. And when heart rate is less, in that case, beta blocker is contraindicated. And in calcium channel blockers, dihydropyridines are given. Okay, so these three, nitrates, calcium channel blockers, and beta blockers, these are the main important things to reduce anginal attacks as a prophylaxis. But these two, statins, antiplatelets, and ACE inhibitors, they are given as adjuvants, especially in case of unstable angina. Okay, and if anything is not managed by all these things, then medical help has to be taken.
For half an hour, 45 minutes. If she has doubts, if she's solving physical chemistry today, then she can connect with me on the
Can you
Sunday by
please
6:30.
mute your mic? Thank you so much. So this completed the whole topic. A quick revision I am taking. In angina, we have seen the pathophysiology, which we had discussed in CHF also. Then we have seen 4 major types of angina. Then we have seen management. In management, there is something for treatment and there is something for prophylaxis of angina. For treatment, only organic nitrates are given. Can anyone tell me which are the preferred drugs for treatment of acute angina?
Isosorbide dinitrate.
And
Glycerol
Glycerol
trinitrate.
glycerin trinitrate, correct. So these two are preferred because they are available in the different dosage forms. They have rapid onset of action. They have active metabolites. So duration of action is also a bit better. And that's why these are the preferred choice for acute angina treatment. Coming to prophylaxis, we have seen in prophylaxis organic nitrates can be given. Then apart from organic nitrates, calcium channel blocker can be given. Calcium channel blocker should not be given in patients with CHF. It can be given only with in patients with angina. Then we had seen beta blockers. So beta blockers are again, beta blockers and calcium channel blockers, they are reducing preload, afterload, and improving coronary artery blood flow. And calcium channel blocker is the only drug which is acting on, calcium channel blocker and beta blockers both, they are acting on myocytes as well. Organic nitrates, they will not act on myocytes, they will just act on blood vessels. After these three, we had seen potassium channel opener, nicorandil, which is hybrid. It releases nitric oxide, which is causing vasodilation. Also, it opens the potassium channels in the myocyte and causes hyperpolarization. Then we had seen ranolazine as miscellaneous drug, which shifts metabolism from fatty acid to glucose. And we had seen antiplatelets, antithrombotic drugs, and anti-integrin drugs. Which are given especially in unstable angina management because plaque is the major concern there. Am I forgetting any class of drug? Am I forgetting any class of drug for angina management that we discussed? Okay, I am only saying I didn't mention one class of drug. Can you tell me which one?
Non-potassium channel opener.
That I have mentioned right now. Something else I did not mention. PDE3 inhibitors, okay, as a vasodilator. That is also given sometimes. So Now we have some MCQs to discuss, but before that, any queries in the whole topic? My chat box is not opening, so please unmute and ask.
Ma'am, what is coronary steel?
Coronary stent, you are saying?
Steel,
STENT?
steel, STEL, steel.
STEL.
STEL, sorry.
Steel. Oh, I have heard this term for the first time. I'll have to check what does it mean. What's the full statement? Can you read wherever you have come across this?
Ma'am, I have to open the book. I need some time.
Okay, no issue, fine. I'll check and let you know. Any other queries? No? If no, then at least mention no so that I can go ahead. Okay, since you
Ma'am,
all are...
the statement is the pharmacological success but the therapeutic failure of dipyridamole has been explained on the basis of coronary steel phenomenon.
No, I'll have to check this properly. With the statement, I mean, I cannot figure out. I'll check and come back to you. Okay. Any other queries? Okay, I'm assuming there is no query. I'll ask, we will discuss the MCQs. I would request you all to please mention the answers. Which of the following is not used in angina treatment?
Beta agonist.
C.
C. So definitely beta blockers are preferred in angina treatment, not agonist. Okay. Next, which of the following helps in vasodilation?
All of these.
All of the above.
It's all of the above. Mechanism explaining calcium channel blocker effectiveness in managing angina.
All of the above.
All of the above. All of them.
Yes, so they decrease contractility in the myocyte, they decrease preload and afterload, and they increase coronary blood flow. Which of the following is preferred for decreasing myocardial oxygen consumption?
Beta blocker.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, beta blocker. Next. So I'll just show here beta agonist. We have not, definitely beta blocker is something we have seen. Calcium channel agonist, no. Calcium channel blocker is given in angina. Potassium blocker, no. Potassium opener is given in angina. Next, which of the following type of angina is also known as Prinzmetal angina?
Variant.
C.
Yes, so I had not mentioned this in while discussion, but this is something you should remember. Variant angina is also known as Prinzmetal angina. Okay, a man is currently taking sildenafil. Recently, due to increased risk of anginal attack, he was prescribed isosorbate dinitrate. Which of the following is most likely to occur?
Hypertension.
Hypertension.
Okay, so for others, definitely whoever has given the answer is correct. But for others, I'll just explain this. Sildenafil is PDE5 inhibitor. Okay, and this drug, though it is acting more on erectile tissues, but its effect may be there on the myocytes or on the smooth muscle cells also reduce. So here I can show you sildenafil. You can see how it is blocking PDE enzyme. It is more selective towards PDE5, but it may block CGMP in smooth muscle cells of blood vessel as well. And nitrates, they are definitely giving, activating CGMP. So they are showing opposite effects. Not opposite effect. Organic nitrates, they are increasing CGMP levels, and PDE inhibitor sildenafil, they are also increasing CGMP effect. So it's like synergic effect from nitrates and sildenafil, and in that case, hypotension, too much of vasodilation will occur and hypotension may occur. So there can be one question like this also, that which of the following side effect may occur more likely, and the options will be different. Okay, now I'm giving different options. Just think and tell me what will be the correct answer. Hypotension, headache, and infarction, and all of the above. Okay, the question is same. I have changed the options. I'm saying which of the following is most likely to occur: headache, hypotension, infarction, all of the above. What do you think? What will be the answer?
Headache.
Headache and
Okay, what do you mean by infarction?
All of the above.
Attack.
Yes, it will be all of the above actually. But just to explain why all of the above, what do you mean by infarction term?
It's heart attack. No?
It's not always heart attack, mostly heart attack. Infarction means reduced blood supply to any tissue. Okay, when it is to the brain, it can be cerebral infarction. When it is to the heart, it can be cardiac infarction. Okay, so infarction is less blood supply. Now, hypotension may cause vasodilation, may reduce the blood supply to the brain, or in the heart. As of now, we are talking about heart. So, vasodilation will cause less. Since I'm just speaking, you might not understand. I'm writing the options. So, headache, infarction, hypotension, and the last option I mentioned was all of the above, right? So the correct answer will be all of the above. Since sildenafil and organic nitrate, they both are acting through the same mechanism, there will be synergistic effect. Headache is the common side effect of both. So due to less blood supply to the brain, headache may occur as a side effect. Infarction to the heart, because less blood supply is there, and hypertension, which is again common side effect. So all these three are common between PDE inhibitors and dinitrate. So that's why these two drugs are contraindicated. The message is that these two drugs are contraindicated. Organic nitrate should not be given with PDE inhibitor. This is something that we need to remember. Any doubt in this contraindication? Why is it contraindicated? Or you understood?
Understood.
Okay. Next question. A person is suffering from anginal attack due to exertion. Okay, that is too much activity. Which of the following management approach is correct in such condition? He should take oral organic nitrates as prophylaxis before exertion. He should take sublingual organic nitrate to treat anginal pain. He should take second and third dose of sublingual organic nitrate at 15 minutes interval. he should seek medical help when sublingual organic nitrate doesn't work. In these 4 statements, which is applicable for this condition? A, B, C, D.
Ma'am, option 2. Only 2.
Okay, someone said only 2. Any other option from others?
A. Only 2.
Okay, only 2. So from 2 students I have received answer. Others are not replying, so I'm extrapolating. Everyone is saying only 2, but the answer is all. Okay, see, if someone is getting anginal attack due to exertion, means क्या उसको stable angina है. He knows the pattern, right? कि जब activity किया तभी anginal attack आएगा. So that's why he should take prophylaxis before the activity. He must take organic nitrates before such exertion. So first statement is true. Second, you all know this is true to treat anginal pain. Third, if after taking this organic nitrate, this pain is not relieved, he can take second and third dose of organic nitrate at 15 minutes interval. Okay, so this can be done, second and third dose of sublingual organic nitrate if pain is not relieved. And fourth, he should seek medical help when sublingual organic nitrate is not working. Imagine he or she has taken 3 doses of organic nitrate during that acute attack, and that attack has not been subsided. क्या करेंगे? Medical help, right? So all of these 4 are true in this case. Any doubt in this question? Or justified properly?
Ma'am, that 15 minutes interval is only due to the half-life. Like half-life is short, इसलिए you can
Yes,
give it.
its half-life is short. If within 15 minutes अगर effect नहीं हुआ, that means now he need to take a second dose.
Ma'am, but इसके active metabolites are there, so like the active metabolites won't get accumulated and cause toxicity if you give it 15 minutes.
Because their half-life will be also less only. If you see, organic nitrates का half-life was hardly 3-4 minutes, 6 minutes, right? So उसका active metabolite का half-life will also be less only, not very high. And even if it is high, it is there in the body, but why the second and third dose is given? Because in 15 minutes that much dose have not shown effect. That's why now second dose is required. So भले ही वो dose increase हो जाएगा, concentration blood में increase हो जाएगा, but it will be required, and that's why till third dose only. After third, next dose should not be given. Otherwise, whatever is your concern, it will accumulate and cause side effect, that may happen. So till third dose, it is permitted. Yes.
Ma'am, as per the third option, is the tolerance possible?
Like, tolerance here, he is taking just 3 doses when there is pain at one time. He is not taking it for 1 month continuously. Tolerance के लिए time लगता है. For 1 week, 1 month continuously when the drug is taken, then tolerance is developed. Just once if he is taking 3 doses because pain is not subsided, then tolerance will not be developed.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Any other doubt in this? Okay, going ahead, next question. Oops. Sorry. Organic nitrate should be given with caution in systemic hypertension, unstable angina, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, all of the above. Which of the condition?
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Yes. So see, I have not discussed this point during our, previous slides, but you can apply some logic. Organic nitrates का side effect है hypotension, or it is actually causing vasodilation. So definitely in hypertension, it cannot be contraindicated. It will be in fact beneficial. So option A, cut. Option B is unstable angina. So in this also, in all type of angina, nitrates can be given. So this option also gone. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is the correct option, correct answer. This is marked incorrectly, sorry. So hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is the correct answer, in which organic nitrate should not be given or should be given with caution. If in that case it is given, chance of angina attack in fact increases. Okay, so literature says that organic nitrate should not be given in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, plus it should not be given in along with PDE inhibitor. It is contraindicated in with these two things. So these are some important points that you need to remember, and that's why I have put in the MCQs to remember and understand. Okay, nitrates contraindicated with PDE inhibitors and in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Ma'am, why it is not given with PDE inhibitor?
I showed you this image now. See, here when PDE inhibitor is given, what this inhibitor is doing, it is inhibiting breaking down of CGMP. So basically CGMP level increase हो गया, right? और nitrate क्या कर रहा है, वो भी CGMP level increase कर रहा है. Both of them at the end they are increasing CGMP levels, so there will be synergistic effect, and chance of side effects like hypotension, headache or infarction will increase. That's why these two together is contraindicated. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay. Any doubts in this whole topic or queries? Because I'm done with the all the queries and everything, questions and topic. No?
Ma'am, it increases the CGMP level and thus it increases the headache and all those things, na?
So see, CGMP के increase की वजह से क्या हो रहा है? Relaxation, right? Vasodilation. When there is vasodilation, that means less blood supply, slow blood supply to the brain tissues, because of which headache is happening. So what you said is correct. Because CGMP is increased, there is headache. What is the correlation? Because high level of CGMP is causing vasodilation, blood supply to the brain tissue is reduced, and that's why headache is there. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I guess I'm done. Preetham, are you there?
Hello, ma'am.
Huh?
Ma'am, except that calcium channel blocker and nitrate, the other class, can we use them alonely, or we have to compulsory combine with both of them?
No need to combine. In some cases, doctor might give just beta blocker, not calcium channel blocker, or not this organic nitrate. Maybe someone is having CHF also along with angina. He cannot give this thing, right? Calcium channel blocker. And organic nitrate is also maybe somehow not contraindicated in that patient. So beta blocker can be given. So not always combination, but जो antiplatelet है or antithrombotic, that can be given as a monotherapy in case of unstable angina. So depending on the condition, doctor can decide whether it can be given as monotherapy or combination therapy. It can be given in any ways, not necessarily any one thing. Huh?
Ma'am, please can you explain about the CAMP, the contraction?
Yeah, PDE, right? Yeah, I'll show you. You can see my PPT currently, right?
Yes, ma'am.
See, these are the two images comparing CAMP role in myocyte and in smooth muscle of blood vessel. So if you see now, this is smooth muscle. You can see CAMP is inhibiting MLCK, myosin light chain kinase enzyme. And kinase is important for contraction. Since this is inhibited, what will happen? Relaxation, matlab vasodilation. Okay, so that's how CAMP, by inhibiting MLCK, it is causing relaxation. This is the mechanism in smooth muscle of blood vessel. In case of myocyte, CAMP is activating protein kinase, releasing intracellular calcium, and that intracellular calcium is causing contraction. So these are two different mechanisms in myocyte and smooth muscles. That's how it is showing different effects. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so in the smooth muscles, a CAMP leads to the relaxation, right?
Yes, CAMP, you can see how again this GPCR protein is only